Most survivors feel very isolated. You have not told anybody about what happened to you. You don't know where to start building community. You don't know who to talk to, who to share your story with. It doesn't mean you have to share all the gory details about what happened to you, unless you feel compelled to. Sharing our stories sometimes opens us up to even more harm. And I think a lot of survivors don't realize that. Now, what happened when Me Too went viral is that a lot of us found community. We shared hashtag Me Too online, or we shared our stories in one way or another, and we found other people who had similar experiences, and we started building community in various ways, virtually, in real life, on our college campuses, in our workplaces, etc. And that has been one of the great effects of having this really great visibility around sexual violence. And people have found each other. Survivors have found each other across the world, and that's amazing. But there's also a way that sharing our stories has been harmful, because people use your story against you. Sometimes people have shared their story, and there are folks who make them feel bad about it. Start asking you more harmful questions that make you question yourself. So it's important to be really careful about who and why you share your story. When you're trying to build community, that step in who and why you share your story is the most important step. Finding other survivors is usually the best way to do that. Some people found people online. A lot of times, it's strangers. A lot of times, it's not people that we know. It's total strangers who have also had the same experience with you, who you don't have other personal connections with. Finding community also doesn't mean large communities. You don't have to go to a big support group, right? Community can be a party of two. It's just somebody else who respects you, who hears you, and who has the ability to empathize with you. Empathy is the most important ingredient in building community. That's why we use the tagline, empowerment through empathy. The whole idea of saying Me Too started between two survivors seeing each other and saying, I see you, I hear you, right? Because I know you. I don't have to have had the same exact experience as you to understand what the trauma that you're holding in your body feels like, right? To know that being afraid of the dark is a result of that. To know that flashbacks and triggers and things like that are a byproduct of that. And so doing this alone is a really scary prospect. Doing it in community just opens up all kinds of possibilities for healing that are just not available to us when we try to do it alone. I can't tell you what a difference it made to me when I found community. I didn't know what I was doing at first. Again, I didn't have language. I didn't have words. I didn't call myself a survivor. I didn't even call myself a victim, right? I just didn't want to feel how I felt. And the first time I found actual community I was in California, and I was with a group of women who were doing digital storytelling that had nothing at all to do with sexual violence. It was just around social justice, other social justice work. And the group of women, after we had finished the day's work, were kind of sitting around, chit-chatting, talking, and the topic of sexual violence came up. Now, I had been in other spaces where sexual violence had come up, and I was always quiet. I never shared my story. I never contributed. So I did the same thing. I let these women talk, and they were talking to me and around me as if I was a survivor, like it was a foregone conclusion. And it was an odd experience, right? They were very gentle and compassionate and empathetic, but they definitely were treating me as if I had already disclosed. And I kind of went with that energy and started talking like they were talking, like as if I was like I had already disclosed. And at some point, I started feeling really brave, and I said something about being a victim. And all of the women at the same time stopped, and they said, oh, no, in this space, you are not a victim. You are a survivor. It was the first time I'd heard that word used in that context. And I was taken back, and one of the women said, we use the word survivor because it is more empowering to have survived something, because victim feels like you've succumbed to it, but you're still here. and you're still breathing, and you survive every day that you get up and you breathe, you survive. And it felt like a rebirth that day, but would not have been able to come to that conclusion on my own. Those women literally gave me permission to be reborn into that new understanding of who I was. And I'm still in community with some of those women. And they helped usher me into a new understanding of who I was and usher me into a new part of my journey. And I really wouldn't be where I am right now without them. The same thing happened when I started doing the work in Alabama with the girls that I was working with. On my own, working with those girls, I felt really wonderful and really powerful, but I was in a position of authority. So it felt good to impart them with knowledge and help them develop and that kind of thing. But I would go home by myself in my house and have nobody to talk to. And the other women that I was working with on the program, we weren't talking to each other, only about the girls. Until we were sitting together in my living room one day, trying to come up with curriculum and workshops, and then we all started talking. We were friends. We all started talking to each other about our own situations and realized, and honestly, it was us looking at MySpace, the people who were reaching out to us on MySpace. Those women on MySpace were looking for community. And so this idea was like, we have to start talking to each other. We had to find community with each other. It just became vitally important to have somebody to turn to, somebody to talk to, somebody to confide in, somebody who saw us, who heard us. Now, often when I talk about building community, there's somebody who always says, I literally have nobody. There's nobody around, there's nobody to talk to, there's nobody I can turn to. I understand that and I hear that. We have resources. The Me Too website, metoo.mvmt.org, has resources on it for people who find themselves in that situation. There are organizations out there who will connect you with other people, who will connect you with groups and other communities of survivors. There are so many other people who are just like you out there who are looking for community. But I'm telling you, it changes your journey, it changes your outlook, it changes your perspective when you find people to survive with. Because survival is hard enough alone. It's hard enough in general, but it's that much harder when you try to do it alone. One of the biggest tools in my toolbox is community. I could not possibly have made it this far in my journey without finding community.